Hi everybody, and we're going to be looking a little deeper at photosynthesis today. On your previous assignment, you were to look at this Khan Academy and the process of photosynthesis here, and taking carbon dioxide plus water and energy from the sun that's absorbed by the green chlorophyll of the plant in the chloroplast, and using that to make a carbohydrate right here, which is a form of sugar we call glucose, and then it releases oxygen gas into the atmosphere, which is also helpful for us. So this this carbohydrate, right, provides us with energy in the base of the food chain. So plants do this photosynthesis process, and also some algae and single cell organisms that basically provide energy for life on the planet. So our question here is especially with the increase in the human population, right, how can we affect this rate of photosynthesis to produce more carbohydrates and then essentially more oxygen for the population to survive? So I'm going to have you look at an online lab today to figure out that process. So if we look here, this is the virtual photosynthesis lab, all right, and what you're going to be doing here is you can click on this link, and it is going to bring you to a virtual lab, and make sure that the simulator here is clicked, and it will bring you to this right here. All right, from here you can conduct several different experiments to figure out how light and the intensity, the distance of light, and even the color of light can affect this photosynthesis reactions. So the setup here, you can see you have a light right here, and then inside this kind of setup here, you can see there's a plant here. This is an aquatic plant, a plant that lives in water, Alodia, and then there's water in this tube right here. So this plant is submerged in water. As this plant does photosynthesis, you can remember that one of the byproducts of photosynthesis is oxygen. It's going to produce oxygen bubbles that we'll see kind of go up in this tube. So the faster photosynthesis is happening, the more bubbles it's going to produce. So we can actually kind of see the rate or how fast photosynthesis is happening by counting the number of bubbles. For the first experiment here, it asks, how does changing light intensity and distance affect photosynthesis? So just remember, for an experiment, we only change one thing, right, one variable at a time, and we try to keep everything else the same. So the thing that I change on purpose is my independent variable. And then what I'm looking for to respond to that change I made is the dependent variable, or sometimes we call the responding variable. So this first experiment, it says start with a 40-watt power source and observe for 1 minute, and then reset and switch to 100 watts, record data in data table. So what we're going to do here, I'll do the first one for you to show how it works. We have it set to 40 watts here and 50 centimeter distance, and we're just going to keep that distance at 50 centimeters. We're only changing the wattage in this experiment and try to keep everything else the same. And here we're going to keep the light clear. All right, then you hit the start button here, and you're going to watch the timer for 1 minute and count the number of oxygen bubbles, and then we'll record in data table. So if you hit start here, you can see the timer go off and the bubbles come up. All right, so that's 1 bubble, 2 bubbles, and 3 bubbles. And at the 1 minute, when it goes around the clock once, we hit stop. And we have, oh, this is nice. It even tells you how many. So 4 bubbles in 1 minute and 5 seconds. We'll say that's 1 minute. And so you'd go here and what did it say? Well, I'm glad it writes it down for me. 4 bubbles. Okay, so I do 4 here. All right. Then the next thing I would do is I'm going to change to 100 watts. All right, so I keep everything else the same here. I can even reset if I want. I'll reset, And I'm going to just change to 100 watts. I'm going to keep it 50 centimeters with clear, and then I'll start again. Watch 1 minute and see how many bubbles are produced. Then I'll type that in there. Then the next experiment, you're going to look at the distance. All right, so you're going to keep everything the same and just change the distance and record the number of bubbles in a minute. All right, and then summarize what you've noticed. And then in experiment 2, you are going to change the color, keep everything the same, and change the color and see how that affects, all right, how many bubbles are being produced. And here's where you change the color. You can even see the color changes on the right. All right. So, and then here's where you can change the distance. All right, and you can reset in between. All right, so let's see what you find out about how the light intensity, color, and distance affect the rate of photosynthesis.